Okay, good morning. Yei Nesach, Kuf, Lamed, Hey, and we are starting Seif, Yud, Daled. Okay, everything's built on what we did before. Clay Cheres, right? Pottery, earthenware. Shenishtamesh Bahen Yein Nesach. You used it, it was used for Yein Nesach. Yimechziran lekivshan, v'hisikan mibachutz v'litlabno, afilu lo hasham betocho ad shenashar hazefet, ala shenirpa sharu. So how do you kasher? So we already learned by a kli cheres you can do milui ve'irui. You can let it soak for 72 hours, right? You change the water each time. There's another way. You can put it back in the, what's it called, the kiln, the oven, and you can fire it up, and as long as it gets hot, you rebake it. That koshers it. Dry heat will kosher it. And it only needs to be hot enough, long enough, the pot inside, so that the pitch in there starts to get soft. It does not have to melt away. It just has to get soft. And then that's...
This is only for Yanis or it's for all of you?
I'm not sure. Yein Nesach is a bit more kal in general than Isser that got absorbed with the heat of direct heat or Rishon, whatever. But so let's keep going. Okay, so there's those halachas, whatever, it's libun, whatever it needs. Then it's libun, or if it's bishul. Okay, let's go. Hagala. Let's go on. So this is by Yein Nesach. Okay. Aval, im hisikan mi bifnim. But if you just heat it up from the inside, you don't put it inside a large oven, you put some kind of heating device from the inside, I don't know, blowtorch, whatever it is, some heating device from the inside, lo mahani,
Coals inside.
or coals inside, very good. Ella im ken hisikan kolkach ad she'avar chumam letzat chutz kolkach shehayatzo ledded bo. So it can also work if the zephyr gets soft and it gets hot, the dish, the pot, the dish, and it gets hot enough that the outside of the pot is yad soleted bo. So okay, so that then it works fine, but the heat has to go through and through. Tet vav, clay eitz v'klei or v'klei cheres afilu mezufatim. So if it's a pot, a dish that's right, you stored wine in there, right? There was wood, there was leather, there's cheres. Afilu, even if it was lined with pitch, right? So we learned mili ve'ile works, but now we want to try and use heat and do it in 1 second, right? Afilu machnisan lekiyum nitrim behagala bekli rishon. So the Shulchan Aruch writes, even if it's the category that it was machniso lekiyum, right? The barrels, you store your wine, the wine bottles, whatever the material is. If even if it's machniso lekiyum, you don't have. There is a way, a quick way, but you have to do hagala bekli rishon. It must be right. You dunk it in the kli rishon on the fire, in the pot that's on the fire, and that's hagala. Now, this is blia bitsonin, exactly. The wine, we're talking about wine, even ye nesach, which is iser hana. Now, it's clear from the Beis Yosef that the halacha according to the Shulchan Aruch is if it's machniso lekiyum, the only way to do it quickly is with hagala. Iroi kli rishon will not work. But what's not clear from the Shulchan Aruch, I mean, his opinion is clear from the Beis Yosef, but you don't see it clearly here. If it's a dish that's not machniso lekiyum, he agrees that iroi kli rishon also works 100%. Iroi from a kli rishon also works, but if it's machniso lekiyum, then you need hagala. Okay. Now, why am I stressing that? Because let's read the Haggah. The Haggah, so there's a few other Rishonim who have a little bit more Mekel opinion. So the Haggah first quotes, V'yesh matirin afilu al yidei iroi sheme'arebehen rotchin ulegalgalan. So you take your barrel, and there's some who hold You can even just pour Yoreh Kli Rishon, even if it's Machniso Lakiyum, you pour Yoreh Kli Rishon into the barrel. Now you're not pouring it on every spot of the barrel, you're only pouring it on part of the barrel. And then while the water is still hot, now you're rolling around your barrel so that water gets all over it. And that's mutter. V'yesh lismach al zeh b'diavad. So only b'diavad the Rama writes that. There's even a Rishon. I think this is a more makel opinion. I don't think it's the same one. Again, if you look in the Torah Beis Yosef, you'll see that even if you pour Yoreh Kli Rishon on, let's say, the spout or the slope that goes into some slope that goes into the chavit, that's also good enough. But that's okay. But now, v'afilu lechatchila, what does the Rama allow lechatchila? Noagin litain avanim ktanim melubanim toch hachavit al gedolim v'notin al mashpech v'shofech aleim rotchim v'yordim toch hachavit v'megalgalo v'mechashvin zeh lekli rishon, or really Yoreh Kli Rishon. So he says he doesn't advise taking a pot of water, take it off the flame and pour it in there. But what he does allow is you do that. If you do that, again, even if it's not getting anywhere near most of the barrel, you're pouring it, but you pour it onto hot coals or a burning hot stone, and then that ki'ilu reignites it and kind of makes it like it's on the fire, and ki'ilu it's like hagala. So that's what he holds is okay lechatchila. Okay, I'll just point out this to make a drop complicated. The Gra says that he's meko by a kligat that's not machnisa lekiyum. You may be arguing on the Rama. I'm not sure. Just to show you, just a drop more complicated lekoladeus. And the Taz holds that you could only, if it has a pitch, you could only do this if there's no other way to do Yoreh. So, but I think that's definitely more machmer than the Rama. Fine, I think we are going to continue. Yeah. Okay, let's go on to Ted Zayin. Kol hakelim sheyeshnan. Now this is a big halacha for here. Kol hakelim sheyeshnan shneim asar chodesh. Yeshnan. Yashnan. It became old. Any pot that you've had aging that sat around for 12 months, and you're going to see lavdafka dry. Any pot that's been around for 12 months since you used yein nesach in there, sharu, it becomes mutter. Shevadai kala kol achluchit yain shabahem. Right, this is a din from the Gemara. Once 12 months passes, all the flavor of the wine is it's gone. The moisture disappears, and it's no longer aser. You don't even have to worry about the ta'am mishpach, whatever it is. It's actually interesting. Normally, flavors, we say, after 24 hours, it's ta'am nifgam, and midaraisa, it's not a problem. When it comes to yain, we say that ta'am is there for 12 months. 24 hours doesn't help. But here, we see that after 12 months works, the yain is no longer a problem. It dries out completely to the point where it can't give any flavor, or nothing significant at least. Shevehem ba'afilu natan latoch ha'mayim toch 12 chodesh ein bekach klum. Now, you have to have 12 months without this treif wine in there, and then it's fine. But even if during those 12 months you were using those dishes, you put water in there, you put kosher stuff in there. So those stuff might become aser, depending on what the halachas is we just discussed. And we're going to see more. But as far as it doesn't restart the clock of 12 months to make this yayin become not a problem anymore in the barrel, that starts right away. It doesn't get stopped. and then therefore it's not a problem. And you don't have, and if there's any, I don't know, knots, chiburim, you don't have to undo anything. 12 months goes by, now it's 100% mutter. So this halacha is clear when it comes to wine that's been in, it's basically room temperature, cold wine. Regarding dishes, porcelain or whatever it is, when it becomes with heat, again, sometimes it's only a kli sheni, sometimes it's kli rishon, whatever the case might be. So that's we mentioned it's a discussion in the poskim if this halacha of 12 months applies or not. Okay, but this is the source. Siman Kuf Lamed Vav. So now if you're going to send bottles, barrels, whatever you want to a goy in his hand, and you need him to take care of it, you want to make sure it stays kosher, right? Otherwise, you're going to have to kosher your own kelim that you lent to him. You're afraid he might put in there wine. So what's the halacha? So there's only one seif, aleph. Hashaleach biyad goy. Kelim amiyuchadim liyain. If you're going to send him kelim that are known for, it's normal for him to use for yain. So then tzarich, right? Hot dishes are also are going to be an issue maybe, but we're talking, something that's always used for cold, you don't have to worry. Mikar din, except for yain, because he might use it, and then yain we know is a problem. Lachtimam. So you have to put bechotam. You have to seal it with some kind of a seal. And echad, chotam echad is enough. Kadei sheyehe nikar im hichnis behem agoy yain. So then it'll become obvious. You'll know if he opened it up. If he then you have to worry that he put wine in there, and then you have to kasher it. So according to the Stam Shulchan Aruch, that's all you need, one chotam, and that's the halacha. At least according to the Shulchan Aruch. V'yesh mi shematzri chotam b'toch chotam. And there's an opinion that says, wait, you have to have 2 chosamos. We're talking about yain, and you can get a lot of benefit out of it. So he might put in the effort to remove 2 chosamos, and then benefit from using it.
You still have came that we used already, so you can't touch the smell.
You can't tell if it was whatever the situation is, or you have to worry that maybe it's possible he'll use it again. If there's, nowadays, if it's through workers and there's a mirtas and there's all kinds of other issues, halacha l'maaseh, you have to look at each case. What's it called? And the Shach points out that one can at least be somech on the one chosam, at least b'diavad. Mashma lechatchila, it's better to do 2 chosamos. Okay, I don't know. It's stam v'yesh omrim. Okay, let's go on. Haga v'im avar v'shalcham below chosam. So let's see what the Ramah writes. Now, what happens if there's no chosam whatsoever? And because normally, even if you send it for a few minutes, now you have to worry about it. Again, do you need to do milei v'iroi? Do you just do hadacha? So that's what we learned already. But once it's even for a few minutes, you have to worry. Whatever's reasonable. Okay, enough time for it to be used. V'im avar v'shalcham below chotam yesh le'achshiro kefi inyan ha'achsher imaya shel goy. But so then you have to kosher it. Aval im.
What in Hayashah Kelim belong to the God?
Imaya shel goy. I'm not sure exactly. I don't know. It's in the goy's hands. Aval im kavar avar v'ishtamish bo ein le'asor b'diavad. Like we learned earlier, again, this is all chashash that maybe the non-Jew who you gave it to used it. We don't know that he used it. So lechatchila, you have to kosher it. But if you actually used it for your own drink and wine without koshering it, presumably we assume it by mistake, or you didn't know any better, so then you're allowed to drink what you put in there because we don't know for sure that he used it, or that it's any iser over here. It's just a chashash lechatchila. Okay. The Taz says, Right. The Taz holds. The Taz argues on the Ramah. Very good. Taz says it's asur ifilu b'diavad. Right. According to the Shach, it is mutter b'diavad. According to the Shach sides with the Ramah, and the Taz argues. Very good. Okay. Well, Kuli Alma, you still have to kasher the kli for the next time, I believe. V'im heim chaviyot gedolot mutar la'shotam bebeit hagoy uman yom o yomayim l'taknam d'b'chol kli gadol kaze ein regilin mishtamish bo lefi sha'a. Now, if you give any here, the case in the Shulchan Aruch is big barrels. It's normal. A person's going to spend. If let's say you give it to him for a day to fix, he figures he has a day. He might fill up a small bottle with wine. That's normal. But a whole chavit, it's a big job to fill up and empty a whole chavit. So if he knows he only has a couple days, no goy is going to start using it. In other words, any case where it's very unlikely that a goy will use it, then you don't have to worry about it. Again, it depends on the situation, the metzias, how long you give it to him. Okay. And the Shach just points out, it's good to be machmer as much as you can within reason. Okay. Siman Kuf Lamed Zayin. Din yain kasher shehusa matoch kli shelo nichshar. Okay, so now what happens? So we learned what we need to do lechatchila. We learned a little bit about b'diavad. Here we're going to learn more. What happens when a drink went in there? What do you do? Okay, Aleph. Kol hakelim asurim achmat yain shel goyim sheichnis behem Yisrael yain kodem sheichshiran. Okay, so now we have a kli, which we learned already. It was used by a non-Jew, so we assume there was stam yenam in there, or we know there was stam yenam in there. And now you want to use it. You buy it from him, you borrow it from him. Okay, so we learned you need to kosher it, and we learned how to kosher it. However, what happens if you didn't kosher it? Now what happens? So now a Jew put your wine in there, right? Yisrael yain kodem sheichshiran, before you kosher it. So what's the halacha on the drink? Asur bishtia umuter behana. So it's just a mashu from the klipa. So then if you put wine in there, it's asur b'mashu, and because yain b'yain, that's right, the din of the Shulchan Aruch, because it's iser hana. And so therefore it's asur to drink everything if you put wine in there. Mutar behana, but since it's just a mashu, the whole wine that you have becomes asur bishtia, but not all of it because you filled it up with kosher wine. So your wine is mutar behana. Afilu hu yavish kol zman shelo avar alav shneim asar chodesh. Even though it was clean, it was dry, there was certainly no wine in there from the Yein Nesach whatsoever, but we're worried about blias. So unless it's been 12 months since it was used, then it's aser. Imhu kli shemachniso l'kiyum asur miyad. So if it's a kli that's machniso l'kiyum, it's aser immediately. Okay.
As opposed to what? Yeah, what was opposed to what?
If it's not machniso l'kiyum, you need 24 hours?
Because a lot of two fish according to the class.
Right, it's a gzera, because normally you need 24 hours for it to absorb. But by machniso l'kiyum, it has a special chumrah.
Even if you didn't actually store it.
Right, the kli is normally used for kiyum, so you put it in there for 1 second, it's aser miyad, it's a din midarabanan. If it's not machniso l'kiyum, I'm pretty sure we learned it's mutter unless it sits there for 12. I think we're about to say that too, actually. V'im hu kli she'ein machniso l'kiyum. It's always good to keep reading. That's what I thought. Okay, and now, Even when you prepare it, still I can't remember from one sentence ahead of me. V'imu kli she'ein machnisa l'kiyom v'hu yavesh. But if it's not machnisa lo nesar ela im kein amad bo yeno she'Yisrael esrim v'arba sha'ot. Exactly. So you need 24 hours. I knew I thought that. Okay. V'im haya b'yayin me'urav kiton shomayim. Now, let's say, now we just said the case is you poured your wine in there. Now, what happens if you put your drink in there that has first water and then wine, or it's mixed wine mixed with water, and then you poured it in there? You're not putting your wine straight into there. So then, im yesh b'mayim shisha pe'amim keneged klipa takankan mutter afilu b'shtia. So then we see that as long as you have 6 parts water, keneged, the klipa of yain nesach from the kli, then it's mutter, which is often going to be the case. And we learned that according to the Taz and the Igros Moshe, it's any liquid, lav dafka, water. Okay, Hagav. And the Hagav is even more makel. We're going to see the Ramah. Filo ein bo mayim batel b'shishim. Even if it's not shish, you don't need shishim. You only need shisha. Ve'ein chiluk b'kelim asurim mishum yenesach bein shehem b'nei yoman o lo. And is this because it's notzri or it doesn't make a difference? Okay, I don't know. Anyways, if it's something else. Okay, anyways, it's batel b'shisha. Fine, let's go on. 1 second. What time is it? Okay, maybe we'll do one more. Okay. There's a whole, here, I'll just mention there's a discussion. If you know the yain nesach was in there for 24 hours or not, it might make a difference. Ayin the shach. Okay, bet. Im darach hanavim begat shagoyim shel yichshiru mutter shariach hartzanim vezagim yesh behem shishim keneged klipat hagat. Now, let's say you stepped on them. It was, you used their vats to crush your grapes. You're making kosher wine from your grapes, but you're using a goyish vat that wasn't koshered. And you noticed that there are some chartzanim v'zagim, yesh behem shishim keneged klipas, shaharei chartzanim v'zagim yesh behem shishim keneged klipat hagat, aval asur lahotzi hayayin derech nekev shahayayin shel goy yarad bo shanekev asur v'yayin yotze misham tzalul mebli ta'arovet hachartzanim. So as long as it stays inside the vat, you're allowed to use the volume of the entire grape, which includes the skin and the seeds, and therefore the pits, whatever. So we're assuming that it's going to be batel b'shishim, and it's not going to be a problem. But you can't pour it out the spout or whatever, the column, the pipes, wherever it goes to, because that had non-kosher wine. And your wine that's going to flow through there, we're assuming is not going to be batel b'shishim. Haga, v'yom ava re'otzi derech hanekev nir l'fi mai dekaimelan stam yenam batel b'shishim. But he says nowadays we hold it's stam yenam is batel b'shishim. The kan gam kain kol hayayin shari. B'diavad we're going to say all the wine is kosher. V'lo amrinan denesar rishon. And we don't say that as it flows out, it's, we assume it is batel b'shishim, and we don't say it's going to be kama, like as every flow comes, it gets aser as it flows out. Okay, stop.